Welcome to another edition of Standalone, where we go from being ordinary to extraordinary. I truly believe that the quality of the conversations that you have in your life are going to either amplify you or pull you down. So, as the new year is going, it's so important that we get order in our lives. And that happens when we talk to people that really know what they're doing. One of the areas that's key to me, it's been the past, 2 decades of my life just being in business, is really understanding the world of finances. It's getting a little bit more confusing because there's so many things that are popping up. The definition of wealth is changing, how we make money is changing, understanding what assets are today versus what they were in the past is a little different. And then some things never change. And so being able to navigate and understand this is really, really important now more than ever. So we have a phenomenal guest with us today, Elke Rubach. So in terms of you bringing the expertise that you have to just the financial world, and for a lot of us, we are just feeling very, very messy. And as we go through another year, we don't want to have it be just another year. We want to be better and we want to be grounded in strong financial principles. So thank you for your hard work. Just a background on you. You are very well educated. You went to London School of Economics. You did a focus on banking and finance. You actually went to work as a lawyer. Then you decided to go into the financial world, which I think is incredible because you have a different background and a different perspective, and your years of studying allows you to see things differently. And so now you are the president and founder of your own firm, and you talk about a holistic approach to giving advice as family advisors. So I can't think of a better guest for us to talk about how do we get our financial house in order? That's one area of our life. A lot of people say money doesn't matter. I do not subscribe to that at all. It is a very important compartment of our life. And when that is in order, it then starts to trickle into more order in different areas of our life. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your expertise. If you can talk to us about why this is a passion for you, why the financial industry, because a lot of us are intimidated by it. I was also, but I had to learn about it so that the intimidation could go away. So what makes you so great? You also speak on many panels. You're a trusted voice in the financial industry. So thank you for your time, for your expertise. But if you could help us just understand why your passion is there to help people become better financially.
Absolutely. And thanks, Sabrina, for having me here. It's a true pleasure and honor to talk to your audience. It's why am I so passionate about what I do? It's very interesting because when it comes to the topic of money, for some reason, this dark purple, heavy velvet curtain drops on everyone's head and it gets very blurry. And it doesn't need to be like that. And if I had to pinpoint where the problem starts, is that people do not talk about money. They don't normalize the money conversation. And I'm sorry, money is a fact. Some people have more, some people have less. Some people are, privileged and have had the opportunity to accumulate more. Some people have been handed down wealth. That's fine, but it's really up to you what you're going to do with it, because if you don't become independently thinker of what wealth means to you, you could have inherited whatever number of dollars you want. That wealth can disappear pretty quickly. I mean, within reason and depending on the case, right? But the normal conversations we have with are, CEOs, lawyers, dentists, doctors that are incredibly competent with a stellar career, but because they're, or business owners in general, right, that they are so busy, so focused on what they do best, that is, building their clientele, looking after their clients, figuring out the next deal, bringing in the next expert, etc. They neglect their own stuff, and their house starts getting messy. and there's a lot of clutter that is accumulated, and they have accounts everywhere, and they don't know why they got things, and years go by and they're not tax efficient, and nobody has a will, or when they have it, it's like from 1912, and since then 6 kids have been born, so it doesn't really talk to their situation. Divorces hit. Some spouses choose to stay home and they don't get involved with the finances, and then they have no idea what's going on. Then the marriage splits. Now there's this lack of trust and they start fighting, and divorces get super nasty. When, if we had talked about money as a fact of life, these fights wouldn't be necessary. Or the noise, the clouds that people go to work with every day because they know they need to get to that, but they don't have the time. And then, next year comes along, and next year comes along, and next filing season comes along. It just gets messier and bulkier and bulkier. Whereas if they sit down really at the end of a coffee cup or a tea cup, and they sit down, they figure out what's important to me. Let me be independently thinking about, what do I want to do with this wealth? What does it mean to me? It's not what a financial plan tells me according to some rule of thumb software that the bank spits out. It's really, what do I have? What do I owe? Where do I want to go? How do I get there? Do I need what I have? Do I have what I need? Have my goals changed? That's you sitting down yourself. Then you have to bring your family into the conversation. I'm incredibly passionate about this because I was a product of a family who didn't talk about money. And my dad thought that my mom had it. My mom thought that my dad had it, and neither of them had it. My dad dies at 50, and my mom is left with 4 kids. And she wasn't working at the time, and she had to figure it out. And if you ask her today, how did you do it? She still says, I have no clue. But somehow we all turned out okay and relatively normal. But my point is, if you normalize the money conversation and you talk about money with your kids, with your spouses in general, not as a taboo, but what are we going to do with this? What's important to us? Is it the experience? Is it the travel? Is it the acquisition of the cabin, the summer cottage, whatever it is that you're looking for? If you have a conversation and you share the load of something that is pretty heavy, it gets easier. Now, there's a level of complexity at some point that some people have that you need to bring a team in. If you're trying to do it all yourself, like if you need surgery, you're not going to go and operate on yourself, are you? You're going to bring the anesthetist, and you're going to be the surgeon, and you're going to bring the nurses, and there's going to be a team looking after proper health care for you. Same thing goes with finance. If you're just living paycheck to paycheck, your financial plan is limited to live within your means, don't spend more than you make, try to figure out ways and you can get more money if you can, teach your kids about financial responsibility, there's your plan. But if you're accumulating more than you're using, or you're not clear on where your money's going, et cetera, it's really a matter of bringing the team of experts in. And it's pure and simple financial janitorial services. It's get rid of what you don't need, understand what you have, and make sure that it's neat and tidy. And like a little bit of I wrote an article a couple of years ago on the Marie Kondo of finances. If it's not bringing you joy, get rid of it and have a plan that follows you and not something that you follow, because things change and life changes. There's things that happen that you need flexibility, but you need a team that's going to help you keep all the pieces together and give you a different perspective. Advisors, that's essentially what an advisor is. Not a salesperson, it's an advisor.
Yeah, I think this is very important for us to understand the difference between an advisor and a salesperson, for, where we can have a sense of trust. For me, working in the financial field and working with a team of people, and we are in sales, the hardest thing that I have tasked upon myself is, how do I build a force of people that don't act like salespeople? And it is really challenging because I'm constantly looking to provide an environment that of people that are not chasing money, that are developing trust and long-standing relationships with customers that understand, like, I'm here to have a service mentality, not a selling mentality. So it's extremely difficult. And for a lot of people, if we just go back and start to ask ourselves, what is wealth? You know, when do I need help? Like, what is the number? Because a lot of people associate wealth with attaining a certain level, a certain number. Is there a number? When do I need to bring in extra help to manage X number? And what is that number today? Is it different than it was in the past?
Well, you know what? I think you're touching 2 points that I've spent a few number of hours thinking. Building your business and building a team of advisors takes time.
Yes.
People ask me, are you hiring? I'm like, of course, I'm always hiring. If I have someone who shares the values and shares the vision and understand that we're an advisory firm, that yes, we charge for advice, right? And there might be a product that is needed to be implemented for the plan you're trying to put together and reach goals. And we could be compensated for, one or the other. What's wrong with charging for advice? A lawyer charges, the accountant charges, the doctor charges. I mean, in Canada, it's a little trickier because it's free healthcare. So people are not used to that. But when you say, this advice is not free, I've spent years and years and years putting all this knowledge together that can simplify your life, or you can try doing it yourself and see how that goes, right? If they could do it alone, they would have done it already. However, when you're building your team and you need advisors, there's and particularly in the insurance world, there's a factor called real life. We know that if you're going to sell one insurance policy and the client ends up not implementing, the first no, you brush it off. The third no, you brush it off. Because as we were saying earlier, everybody hates buying insurance, but everybody loves what insurance does. That, to me, it's the ultimate way to achieve independence. You put an insurance policy in place. It's not going to solve the problem, but at least it's going to give you options to not have to react in a panic, right? But if you have 3 kids at home and you're the breadwinner and you keep getting no's, reality is it gets really tight and really difficult for the advisor in training, if you want, to keep the family fed and sheltered, right? So if you're bringing advisors on board, they need to have X level experience, or you have to have, as a hiring company, some kind of runway for them to be hungry but not starving.
Yes, this is so huge.
Okay. And you need, and I'm guilty of this. I wouldn't say that I've mastered the science here, or I don't know if it's art or science, what it is, a combination of the two. That you need to implement measurable deliverables, so if the person is succeeding or not. And they're not going to be a hit in 3 months. There might be some cases where it works out, but reality is it takes a while. It's taken me 12 years to get to where I am. I can't expect somebody to turn out to be a superstar. If they do, great. But if in the meantime, my expectations need to remain on the ground, right? So that's one thing. And the other thing we're talking about is, what is wealth? And I think the chip that we are put in when we're young is accumulation, money, dollars, or whatever currency you want. The more, the better. But people are not taking the time to sit down and understand what's important to me. And I see that when I do intergenerational planning. Generation 1 is the founder of the business. Generation 2 inherited the business by choice or by mandate of, family mandate or need. And they they're passionate, they could be very passionate about it and grew it, or the ones that are just doing it because they were the heirs to the business and have no choice, but actually hate it, but they still had to work really long hours. They have generation 3, and particularly post-COVID, they say, I really like what that money can buy, but there's zero chance in hell I want to give up all the hours that I have to myself, with my family, with my kids, and never see my parents the way I never saw mine, right? Or sorry, never see my kids the way I never saw my parents. And for generation 1 to understand the new values of generation 3, it's very tricky. So that's part of what we do. We sit down with families and we say, okay, let's figure out a way to really truly maximize the value of the enterprise. And those conversations are very, very hard to have, because people come to terms with, my kid actually doesn't want what I built, or they want to change it dramatically, and I disagree with that. I hear very often, how does this kid in their 30s, 40s expect to grow this business if he's dropping off his kids every day in school? That's what's important to them, right? And it's not a time for me or my team to judge, but it's really opening up certain wounds from the past, certain thoughts that they hadn't, processed from the past, and say, okay, how is this enterprise, be it a, small corner shop to a massive industry, how can we maximize the value? What does value mean? And what are the rules of the game for us to transfer this to the next generation in a way that it's a meaningful, everybody wins situation? Because if those conversations are not had or don't happen, you'll see the short sleeves to short sleeves in 3 generations happen very quickly, because there's entitlement, there's regret, there's guilt, there's unspoken situations, there's anger, there's you can find a lot of hurt feelings too. Everything that is emotional, that is not aired on time, will eventually come out. So normalizing the money conversation, talking about it with your kids at every age, obviously different level of complexity, is really the way that you can figure out what a family stands for. Or, even a single individual, they might say, you know what, I actually hate what I do now and I need a change. And changing your mind is absolutely fine and acceptable. And then you change. There's one life and you have to live it at the fullest. And if you're going to spend 15 years or 20 years mulling over your misery, well, it's not my life. And again, I'm not judging, but don't you just want to get on with your life and live a more positive life?
So, this is something I grapple with a lot, because I see different generations and how they have these different mentalities in approaching finances. And, I look at it like a seed, then a tree, then the fruit. And everyone wants the fruits, but nobody wanted to plant the seeds and nurture it and then tend to the tree and the soil. And we live in a world today where it's like, give me the fruit, give it to me now. I don't care. I'll just go somewhere else and get it. Well, someone had to grow that fruit. Someone had to tend to it. Someone had to nurture it. And so when you talk about this intergenerational planning, I don't think there could be a more important conversation for the pools of money that are in the world right now, where you have like people that have accumulated so much wealth. Like, we talk about numbers that sound like we're making up stuff, and then they're sending it to their children that don't have the same value systems. So how do you get alignment in a family where is there different values? Is there common values? Like, what can we align around when the environment has changed so much? Even you bringing up this topic of, I want to drop my children off. Okay, I understand that. I have 3 small children. And that's something as a woman I grapple with a lot. Like, there's things I can and cannot do if I'm serious about my financial health. I can't sacrifice everything. I can't do everything. I have to prioritize. So that's for me. Now imagine sending that down to my children, intergenerationally. How do you, what do you align on?
So there's a full method behind this, and when families retain us for the full process, there's a system. You first
That's
need to
great to know
understand.
because I didn't think there was.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness, because
Okay.
essentially you need to figure out who's hiring you, right? Is it G1, G2, G3? Is it just a husband, just a wife? I
That's
find
so
that,
good that you do this.
yeah, it's and I love it because not one family is the same.
Yeah.
Every single family is different. You know, if one hates strawberries and the other one loves strawberries, everything changes.
Yeah.
So, you figure out the rule. Ultimately, what you're bringing is governance to the family. So who are the parents? Who are the money makers? What are your values? What's important to you? Then you bring in the next generation. Okay, who's involved in the business, or who's involved in the financial decisions of the family? Let's take, the temperature, whose values still align with this, or who's changed. We see that too when we do philanthropic plans. Some people say, I want to leave everything to my university, and everybody says like, no, 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 no. I want like the puppy rescue and the elephants in Africa, and the generator of wealth. It's like, no, my university. And they're like, no, the puppies. And once you're gone, you're gone. So you can only control so much. But anyway, so then you have, depending on how many generations, and every engagement is different. It's and how, like, are you including the cousins, and are you just going mom, dad, kids, or there might be other family members that are considered family members. So you first, figure out who's the family, what's important, what remains important, what has changed, has it changed enough that it's important for you to dig your heels in, or are you, and then the negotiation starts, and you said it's truly governance and rules of the game. And one of the clauses we add there, it's a joking clause, but we say, no, we cannot throw ashtrays, and no, we cannot cuss at each other. If we start seeing, and so we set the rules, if we start getting angry, because it happens often, uh how are we going to solve this? And then once the rules are established, then we just follow the rules. It's very simple. If you
Yeah.
try to do it all in one go, and it takes time, and all in one go, everybody in one room, and without a neutral third party, may the force be with you, because that's can get horrible. I've seen it, and I was like, I do not recommend that.
Yeah, I think this is so great. When I heard that you do like a holistic approach, I think this is such a major area for the future intergenerational wealth planning. And I think this is a very tough issue. And that's like where they need a lot of, where you said teams of people to come in from a neutral point of view. So it's not families fighting, because the one thing that all families do have in common is that we fight. And it's brutal. So just, that's so wonderful. You talked about um one of the things that is incredibly important is being able to delegate that out to professionals. I wanted to ask you this because we touched on it a little bit, but trust is something I feel like it's getting less and less and less. And you know, how do you in this industry create an atmosphere and an environment where people can trust to delegate their financial, it's their life. It's when someone is opening up their books to you, it is everything that they could possibly know, and they're giving it to you and trusting that with you. How, like, how do you cultivate that within your team of professionals so people take it so seriously and understand that there's also like a delicateness to what you're being given in terms of financial information?
So I mean, I guess once a lawyer, always a lawyer. We do give our clients non-disclosure agreements because we really dig deep. And again, we use analogies a fair bit, a lot actually. If there's something that's killing you, that's hurting you so much that you need to go into surgery, and you're pre-op, you better tell the doctor everything you have, right? Did you drink the night before? Did you do drugs the night before? Are you, is there something happening? Did you do something that you were not supposed to do that would prevent you from having a proper surgery? So that's the first, right? Then you're going to tell the doctor absolutely everything that hurts you. Does it hurt? Like if you're going in for right arm surgery, you're not going to tell them that it was the left arm that was hurting you, right? So our business, our model is pretty much like going into surgery. The more you tell us, the better I can diagnose a problem, the solution, and give you options. The other thing is, we're not a high volume business. We're not looking for the 6,000 policies a year or 6,000 clients a year. We take a limited number of clients per year because we want to make sure that we give them the time to get comfortable, meet the team, open up. Like you're not just gonna, very few people, like I am one that opens up quickly, but not everybody is. And when people have financial fears and, financial philosophies that prevent them from opening up quickly, it's gonna take time. And my job as an advisor is not to it's create, enough tension that gets, the dial going, but not push and pound on the table and yell at people, because I've seen that happening. And I'm sorry, that's not an advisor. You're not here to yell. And it takes time to build trust. You don't trust people, especially with something so emotional, like your money and your financial well-being, overnight. So how do you build your business? It's usually referrals. Your friend refers you to the person that helped them. And, the number of times people reach out and say, I can sell you X number of leads and 5,000 clicks. I'm like, don't. That's not how I talk to people. That's not people I'm interested, because if people are going to make financial decisions based on the cheapest or, whatever clicked faster, so on, I don't think that they're ready to take this seriously and make decisions. And sometimes they're tough decisions to be made and implement stuff because they were looking for the wrong thing. So we also test for fit and make sure that, they feel comfortable. And when we do the plans, we don't just print a plan and send them on their merry way. We walk with them and, do periodical touch bases. And how are you feeling? And how's this working? And what do you think we should do? Is everybody aware of what's going on? Is it still working? It's not a once and done thing. And that's what turns you into an advisor. If you're just going to sell something and disappear and see you later, or, an asset management that your obligation is to at least talk to the client once a year, how many things have changed in your life in the last year that your advisor might not know? So if it's not a close enough relationship where people call you to tell you, oh, by the way, I had another kid, or we bought this company, or we're thinking about this reorg, it's a problem. And some of the tough calls too are like, the business is sinking, or how do I deliver this news to my spouse? Or, my spouse and I are breaking up. What's the best way of doing this? And instead of going into those horrendous legal battles that nobody wins. Well, the advisory team wins, but not the couple, and particularly not the kids.
Yeah. That's so great to hear that, I think trust is relational. So when you're having this mindset of this isn't about volume, because the world of business today is about volume, scale, grow. And yes, I understand that, but also too, like the customer has to be cared for. Like, how do you provide that ultimate service? And so just for hearing you say that is so refreshing. And it's powerful. It's really, really great. I wanted to ask you about the difference between management and leadership, because this is something I talk to a lot of people about. A lot of people want to lead a situation, but they're not good managers. And so like you have to learn, my philosophy is you have to learn how to manage something first before you try to lead it. If you take it in the world of finances, you know, accumulation is one thing. You have to manage to accumulate, and then you can lead that accumulation and have a vision of what you want to create. But today, I find people are so much about leadership and like vision, and this is what I want. Okay, but let's get management down. Like, how are you managing the day to day? What are you doing? I want to ask you, like, what are your thoughts on when in the financial world of management versus leading our finances? What is the difference to you?
So one of the questions we ask our clients when they retain us is, would you like us to be the coach or the captain of your team? And it's a personal decision,
What's
and
the
we can
difference?
do both.
How do you define it?
The the captain is, okay, you told us that these things are important to you. This is what you need, and this is how we're going to do it. So this is where we're headed, right? The coach is, call us and, oh, you're curious about this? Okay, this is how you can do it. It's a much smaller chunk, right? And they're trying to do it themselves. However, in when I tell people we need to be realistic in terms of time availability, skill, preparation, literacy, etc. If you're going to do it on your own, there's a good chance that you're going to focus only on asset management and day trading or so on. But you might be most likely leaving other things outside of the calculation. For a solid financial plan, personal or corporate or whatever, to work, you need to have tax efficiencies considered. That's the most important thing. If you're not tax efficient, you're wasting your time. You're just making, Uncle Sam richer or CRA here, and they'll not even thank you. They'll take it, and then they'll let you continue taking unnecessary risks for a return that could be optimized otherwise. So you need to be tax efficient. You need to have a short, medium, and long-term view of investing. You need to understand what you're invested in. Okay. And some people will have more inclination to learning more. Some people will just say, like, give me am I losing money? No. Okay, carry on, type of thing. You need to have a risk management strategy. So it's code for insurance that everybody hates, but whatever. And it's also a tool to save on taxes and estate planning too. So I love it. And I'm a big fan of it, but the right measure, and not everything solves problems with insurance, and not everything is asset management. But ultimately, you also have to have the family dynamic conversation, and everything has to be wrapped up nicely with a bow. That's called an estate plan. So a will or wills, or depending on the situation, right? If you're missing any of those elements, your table is missing a leg, and it might fall, or your house might crumble. And that's exactly what we do. We keep the house in order. We deal exactly with the things that we know would otherwise crumble the house. And you can try to do it on your own and think that you've got the 360 view of the problem, or realize that you're human. You could be tired, you could be underslept, you may want an opinion, you might, have a second opinion of, am I missing anything? And you can continue doing it yourself if you manage it, or just delegate. Now, do you have to manage to then lead? I think you have to be realistic. And if you suck at managing, then find somebody who understands you and excels at managing, because some things need to be managed. And if you're really not good at managing, don't try that yourself, because you're wasting your time, you're doing it wrong, and you're going to anger everyone. But if I'm a big fan of this book called EOS System. It's Gina Wickman. And it's all about, if you have the vision and you have this leadership concept and so on, you need to have someone who's going to be your filter and your counterbalance to say, hey, you're completely missing the mark right now. That sounds great, but it's not the right time. And somebody who's going to push back on ideas that may be great, but maybe not now. Or let's see if this actually has legs, and let's try to make it run and have a team. I'm a big fan of teams, and leading obviously is with the team. But managing is not for everyone. And if it's really not for you, then literally be realistic and find someone who can help you do that.
Yeah, that's great. Great. I think for a lot of people, this is so refreshing to hear There's a lot of noise in this world, and that's why I love talking to just great people, because it gives you hope that there are really good qualified people that do great work, and you're one of them that is literally taking the time to go more deep into a person's situation instead of just surface, putting band-aids on solutions. But I just love what you're doing with the intergenerational wealth and the transfer of it, because I think that's a big problem for the future. We're getting more and more divided with our values within families. It's not even like our family has these principles and you're a different family. It's happening within families. So I think that's something huge for the future. If I'm a person who has accumulated, um, you know, because I've worked hard my whole life and I want to know more about what you do, how do I connect with you? How do I find you? Where would I go? What would be the next steps for me to then get my house in order, which is what you're all about?
Absolutely. So we do coaching, and we service clients in Canada and the US through alliances we have. And we're starting to do Mexico as well. I'm from Mexico, so I speak Spanish.
Oh,
Uh, and well, I mean, if people are curious, I always say find me on LinkedIn. We have the business page, Rubach Wealth, and the personal page, Elke Rubach. We have obviously the website, rubachwealth.com. And that's if they're just picking at what's happening. We have a newsletter. We send it quite often. We always invite people to ask questions, and so we can address them in the newsletter. And if people are ready to have a half an hour conversation to test for actual readiness, I'm an email away. It's very easy to find me, and my parents were kind enough to give me a weird name in North America. So it's very easy to find me, and we're happy to have a half an hour conversation. We walk them through the process. We understand more where they are, and we test for fit. And it might work, it might not be work, it might, not, maybe not now, maybe in the future, or we're happy to refer them to other people that, might be a better fit for them. And yeah, it's a matter of literally starting the conversation. And if people can't invest half an hour in their potential future, then they're not ready for what's next. And what's next is a lot of fun, but it's interesting, and I have a lot of fun. It's big brains get in the mix, and we're all hands on, but people need to be ready.
yeah, I think that's so great. Well, thank you for your dedication, your education, the years that you've put in to learn, and just to bring responsibility to the area of the financial world, which, even though I'm in the financial world, what I do hear from a lot of people is that there's a lack of trust. People are just thinking that everyone's in it for the money, but there are some people that are like properly educated that care about building a great business and doing great work, and you're one of them. So thank you for that, and thank you for the energy that you bring to the space that we get to live in together. So I look forward to continuing a relationship with you, and then all the best to you. And I really do admire like the hard work and dedication that you put into this industry. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and very nice to be here. Have a wonderful year.